Looks like there's something stuck in here.
With the box office and critical success of films like Sinners, Lee Cronin's The Mummy, and the recently released Obsession and Backrooms, we can safely say that horror films have been having their moment of glory over the last couple of years. The year 2026 especially has been a treat for fans of the genre, with at least one decent horror release each month.
It's beautiful.
Apart from being genuinely great horror films, they have another thing in common: the presence of disturbing scenes that can successfully creep us out. Like in 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, where the infamous skinning scene was criticised by fans who claimed it didn't go with the tone of the franchise. Well, you can love it or hate it, but that particular scene produced genuine conversation regarding the limits of mainstream horror cinema. It seems like horror filmmakers have decided to push the boundaries further, judging by the upcoming roster of films. In today's video, we'll talk about all of the disturbing horror films that are to be released in 2026, 2027, and beyond. So, without further delay, let's begin the video. Evil Dead Wrath. We start off this list with the iconic horror franchise created by Sam Raimi. Evil Dead Wrath. Evil Dead Wrath, directed and written by Francis Gallupi of The Last Stop in Yuma County fame, is officially scheduled to roll into theaters on April the 7th, 2028. Lately, the Evil Dead franchise has been on a roll, with Evil Dead Rise and the recently released Evil Dead Burn, both successfully delivering the chills and gore that we associate with the film series. But unlike these films, which are standalone offerings and set in the same universe, Evil Dead Wrath is a prequel to the original trilogy and is set in 1972, way before the events of the first film. While the plot details are still under wraps, producer Robert Tapert revealed at a recent event that the film will feature a lot of coming-of-age sexual hijinks, which will be a new direction for the series. The film stars an ensemble cast of Charlotte Hope, Jessica McNamee, Zach Gilford, and Josh Hellman, among others. A promising lineup for what feels like a genuinely fresh take on a 45-year-old franchise. Frankly, I'm excited for the first prequel in the series. I'm curious to see if it gives us a peek into the origins of the Necronomicon. Insidious, Out of the Further. August 21st, 2026. Just when I thought the Insidious franchise was over, it's coming back with a bang. The sixth film in the horror series, named Insidious Out of the Further, is directed by Jacob Chase and stars Amelia Eve, Maisie Richardson-Sellers, and Brandon Prayer in the lead roles. Although veteran actress Lynn Shay reprises her fan-favourite role as Elsie Rainier from the previous movies, the trailer makes it clear that the new film has only a loose connection with the other films in the series. In this one, we follow Gemma and her young daughter, and it turns out that Gemma has the same ability as Dalton from the previous films. She can travel into the demonic realm of the further. But here's the twist. She can bring back spirits from the unholy dimension to our world, setting up a scary and unsettling chain of events. Frankly, yeah, we all know that the previous sequels were extremely underwhelming. But this one looks like it's learned from the mistakes of the earlier films, focusing more on genuine atmospheric horror instead of depending only on jump scares. The glimpse of the iconic Red Demon from the earlier films and the overall design of the Further in the trailer makes me hopeful that the series has finally gone back to the low-budget origins of the first film, and that alone makes the film a worthy addition to my list. Resident Evil, September 18th, 2026. With the success of Weapons and Barbarian, comedian turned filmmaker Zach Cregger has established himself as one of the more promising new voices of contemporary horror. So, it's no surprise that his next venture, Resident Evil, will definitely be on the list. There have been other attempts to reboot the franchise previously, but with Cregger at the helm, we have a solid chance of getting an adaptation faithful to the game. Reuniting Cregger with his Weapons actor Austin Abrams, the film follows the medical courier Brian, played by Abrams, as he tries to make a delivery in the middle of a zombie outbreak. The film takes place during the events of the Resident Evil 2 video game, as Raccoon City descends into a zombie outbreak. While I was skeptical about the film, given the over-the-top nature of the previous films in the series, the teaser trailer suggests a far more grounded approach, which has reignited my interest in his adaptation. These are all good signs, considering Cregger is also a fan of the horror video games. The brief, yet moody teaser also shows Cregger's expertise as a horror maestro, and with the fan base of the game behind it, well, this has all the potential to be his highest grossing film yet. Other Mommy. October 9th, 2026. One of my favourite horror subgenres is the scary mother film, like Hereditary and The Babadook, where the mother finds herself in horrific situations while trying to protect her family. Produced by James Wan and Blumhouse, the team behind some of horror's greatest hits of recent times, Other Mommy is the newest addition to this cycle of films. This film also made it onto the list since it marks the return of Jessica Chastain to this subgenre after the brilliant 2013 film Mama, which is one of my favourite horror films of the last decade. Also starring Jake Duplass and Arabella Olivia Clarke in the lead roles. This film centres around a young girl's encounter with a paranormal entity named Other Mommy, which stays in her closet. The entity takes the shape of the girl's mother and slowly becomes a threat to her and her family. The film's directed by Rob Savage, who's best known for the 2023 Stephen King adaptation The Boogeyman, and is based on the 2024 Josh Malerman novel Incidents Around the House. Clayface, October 23rd, 2026. Of all the films listed here, I must confess that this is the one that I'm most excited about. The first reason is that it's marketed as the first full-blown horror film from James Gunn and Peter Safran's DCU, and it revolves around the tragic origin story of one of Batman's underrated yet iconic villains. The second reason behind my excitement is the creative team associated with the film. The film is co-written by one of the masters of modern horror, Mike Flanagan, and directed by British horror director James Watkins, who recently directed the American remake of Speak No Evil, starring James McAvoy. If the brief teaser is anything to go by, well, the film will be a terrifying body horror experience like David Cronenberg's The Fly, and it'll be our first peek into Gotham in this new universe. The film's inspired by the iconic Feet of Clay episode from Batman, the animated series, and stars Tom Rhys-Harris as the titular villain, alongside Naomi Ackie, Max Minghella, and Ed Marson in supporting roles. Return of the Living Dead, November 2026. The next film on the list also marks the return of one of my favourite zombie franchises to the big screen. Titled Return of the Living Dead, this one is written and directed by Steve Walsh, who previously directed acclaimed low-budget horror films like Fog City and Kill Her Ghosts. The film is a direct sequel to the 1985 film, and picks up 18 months after the events of the original film. This time, we're going to witness a zombie outbreak in the middle of Christmas 1985, and I'm particularly excited to experience how the undead threaten to ruin the festivities in this installment. The film stars Devon Sawa of Casper fame, along with Casimir Jolette, Kinley Hyman, and Alexander Ward as the iconic zombie Tarman. If the brief teaser is any indication, the film will be another fun addition to the franchise, which, much like its central monsters, refuses to die down. Werewolf, December 25th, 2026. Fresh from the success of 2025's Nosferatu, Robert Eggers goes back to his folk horror roots in Werewolf to tell us a timeless gothic horror story. The film is set in 13th century England and stars Aaron Taylor Johnson as the eponymous creature, along with Lily Rose Depp, Ralph Ineson, and Eggers' regular Willem Dafoe in crucial roles. Werewolf, written by Eggers and the prolific Icelandic author Sjón, revolves around a dangerous mythical creature that unleashes chaos among the villages of a foggy countryside. The official trailer promises an intense journey of gothic foreboding, much like the director's debut film The Witch. With Eggers in the director's chair, well, the film seems to me like another atmospheric deconstruction of a classic monster that'll be the perfect Christmas gift for horror fans around the world. The Conjuring, First Communion, September 10th. 2027. Although the Conjuring series has officially wrapped up the story of Ed and Lorraine Warren, it doesn't mean that it's the end of the beloved horror franchise. The Conjuring, First Communion, directed by debutante director Rodrigo Hart from a script by Richard Naing and Ian Goldberg, will serve as a prequel to the main series. Details regarding the plot and cast are not known at this point. Although the recent entries in the franchise have been disappointing experiences for me, well, a prequel entry going back to the early days of the franchise seems to me the exact direction it needs to explore to recreate the magic of the original James Wan classic. A Quiet Place, Part 3, July 30th, 2027. Next up on the list, we have another franchise film, the third installment in the sci-fi horror series A Quiet Place. John Krasinski returns as the director, writer, and co-producer of the film, with Emily Blunt, Noah Jupe, Millicent Simmons, and Cillian Murphy reprising their roles from the previous films. The third film has also added current horror sensation Jack O'Connell, Jason Clarke, and Katie O'Brien to the cast. Although we have no information regarding the plot of the film, being a fan of the series, well, we can safely say that this film is also set in a post-apocalyptic world where silence is the only means of survival from blind and very dangerous aliens. Given the track record of the previous films, and with the original cast and crew returning, A Quiet Place Part 3 could turn out to be the scariest and most exciting film in the franchise. Terrifier 4, TBA. The next film on the list is also the most predictable entry here, Terrifier 4. The next installment in the slasher horror franchise is supposed to be the final film in the series. My favourite modern-day slasher master, Damien Leone, is back. David Howard Thornton reprises his iconic role as Art, the clown. Lauren Lavera returns as the final girl, Sienna Shaw, and this film will reportedly explore the origins of the horror icon. There are no further details beyond that, but honestly, that's enough to make me excited for the film. It's Art, the clown. We all know what we're signing up for. Regardless of the plot, well, if this one follows the template of the other films, the blood and gore will progressively increase. And I'm all in for this one last ride with Art. The Exorcist, Martyrs, March 12th, 2027. After the critical and commercial failure of David Gordon Green's Exorcist reboot, well, the iconic horror franchise is hoping for a comeback with the involvement of Mike Flanagan as the director. Although we don't have much information regarding the plot, well, early reports suggest that this film will be set in the same universe as the 1973 William Friedkin classic. The film marks another collaboration between Blumhouse Productions and Mike Flanagan, who also serves as the writer and co-producer of the film. The film stars Scarlett Johansson and Jacoby Jupe of Hamnet fame as mother and son, while Chiwetel Ejiofor will play a reformed convict turned priest. Other cast members include Flanagan regulars Hamish Linklater, Rahul Kohli, Carla Gugino, Kate Siegel, and Samantha Sloyan, among many others. We've already seen Flanagan adapt works by classic horror authors like Stephen King, Shirley Jackson, Edgar Allan Poe, and Henry James, and transforms them into devastating pieces of art. So, the possibilities of what Flanagan conjures up with The Exorcist are genuinely exciting. Paranormal Activity 8, May 21st, 2027. After the 2021 reboot of Paranormal Activity had a disastrous reception among audiences, well, the horror franchise is gearing up for a comeback with an 8th installment. This time, it's directed by Canadian director Ian Twarson, who previously made the surprise horror hit Undertone, while James Wan, Blumhouse Productions, and the director of the original Paranormal Activity, Oren Peli, serve as producers. Although we have no clear information about whether the film will be a reboot or continuation, the directors made it clear in a recent interview that the found footage aesthetic will stay. Twarson, who's been given full creative control over the film, wants to elevate the horror by using updated camera technology, as per a recent interview. While there are no further details available for the project, I'm particularly excited for this one due to Twarson's approach to the film and his previous experience in creating viral VR horror videos. The End of Oak Street, August 14th, 2026. Director David Robert Mitchell, who made the horror classic It Follows, is back in the genre, and this time he has Ewan McGregor and Anne Hathaway by his side. Produced by J.J. Abrams, The End of Oak Street brings together tropes of sci-fi and survival thrillers to create an immersive theatrical experience. And if that's not enough, we also have dinosaurs and elements of cosmic horror thrown into the mix. Also written by Mitchell, the film is set in 1985, and it revolves around the Platt family, who suddenly discover one day that their quiet neighborhood of Oak Street has shifted to a strange landscape as a result of an unexplained cosmic event. They can only survive this weird situation if they stick together as a family. Although, personally, the premise itself is enough to intrigue me, the trailer also looks visually stunning, making this one a very real contender for the surprise horror hit of 2026. Gremlins 3, November 19th, 2027. After many years of negotiations between studio heads and creatives, Gremlins 3 is finally happening with a November 2027 release date. The film, directed and co-written by the writer of the original film, Chris Columbus, is supposed to be a sequel to the franchise. To be frank, I didn't have any expectations for Gremlins 3 and just dismissed it as yet another attempt by corporations to cash in on 80s nostalgia, like the Ghostbusters reboot or the Indiana Jones sequels, but with Zach Lipovsky and Adam Stein, the director duo responsible for last year's fantastic reboot of Final Destination Bloodlines, joining as co-writers. my opinion has slightly changed. Judging by their past work, I think this one can turn out to be a great mix of nostalgia and genuine scares, which will be a satisfying experience for both fans of the original cult classic and new audiences. There are no details regarding the cast or plot of the film, although there are strong rumors that Jenna Ortega might be in contention to star. Like the previous film, Steven Spielberg is also attached to the project as executive producer. In the original film, the mischievous and sometimes murderous creatures were made using puppetry, practical effects, and animatronics under the supervision of legendary special effects artist Chris Wallace. But today, with such rapid advancements in CGI and VFX, it'll surely be interesting to see how the monsters are designed and whether they can pull off the scary factor that made the original film a cult classic. The Blair Witch Project reboot, September 24, 2027. When the Blair Witch Project reboot was announced in 2024, well, it felt like a tried that, failed again kind of attempt that was doomed from the beginning. But the recent news of the involvement of crew members from the original film, including director duo Eduardo Sanchez and Daniel Myrick, starring Michael C. Williams and Joshua Leonard, and producer Greg Hale as executive producers, has given me some hope. Now, we all know that their association doesn't guarantee success, but the original crew's involvement means that someone in the production actually knows what made the first film a cult classic. This reboot of the found footage classic is produced by Blumhouse and James Wan, and is directed by Portraits of God director Dylan Clark. Like most of the other reboots on the list, we don't have any updates regarding the cast of the film, although, according to unconfirmed reports, we might have some idea about the plot. The film will reportedly take place in a forest, and will focus on a family on a camping trip. Soon after, like in the 1999 film, the family members start going missing in the forest, and they suspect there are some sinister things happening there. As you might have assumed correctly, the plot roughly follows in the footsteps of the first one, but it remains to be seen whether it can recreate or even surpass the success of the original classic and set new benchmarks in the found footage genre. Five Nights at Freddy's 3, TBA. The last film on the list is yet another video game adaptation, but this time it's a sequel rather than a reboot. Five Nights at Freddy's 3, the latest installment in Blumhouse's massively successful horror franchise, is reportedly in development, although its director hasn't been officially confirmed. As we all know, the last two films revolved around a troubled man named Mike Schmidt, who, along with his sister Abby and Vanessa, faces a group of animatronics that are possessed by the ghosts of murdered children in the local pizza place. I'm particularly excited about this installment, since the last film's post-credit scene teased the return of the fan-favourite serial killer William Afton, played by Matthew Lillard from The Dead, in his trademark Springtrap suit. No returning cast members have been officially confirmed. Though the plot details haven't been revealed, we can expect this one to dial up the horror elements that made the video game franchise a roaring success and become another box office success story for this widely popular film series. So that's it from my side. Which films from the list are you most excited about? Let us know in the comments below. If you liked the video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe.